Hey friends, we're back here on Stryper-Drive with my co-host
Rex
and our buddy, our returning friend, Mr. Mike Tifft. Glad to have you again with us, Mike. Thanks for being with us. And in the last segment, we discussed Reborn, our thoughts. It was released on August 16th, 2005. And here for this segment, we're going to talk about Murder by Pride, which was released just shy of 4 years later on July 21st, 2009. As its preceding album Reborn, this was Murder by Pride was released on Big 3 Records. This is the second album in the Stryper canon to contain bassist Tracy Ferry. Now the difference, guys, I don't know if y'all realize this, the difference between these two albums, production-wise, engineering-wise, is this is the first album in Stryper's canon. Let me see if I can find the name. Well, I probably can't find it backwards there, but Danny Bernini enters the picture. And if you're aware of that name, from this album onward up through Even the Devil Believes, he has had his hand in, either engineering or production or helping mix and things like that. Quality stuff, right? So Danny Bernini enters the picture with Murder by Pride. Mike, your overall thoughts regarding the album? General impressions.
So coming off of Reborn, I was starting to wonder, is this what Stryper's going to be now? Is it just going to be more like, or is Michael Sweet going to stay in that mode of writing what he'd been writing, which, like I said, kind of started out on Truth and then carried over into Reborn. And so I was thinking, are we ever really going to get our Stryper back? Anything like it was. And so when I heard there was going to be another album, I think me, like most fans, and I think I recall hearing Michael say at some point that he had heard from a lot of the fans that they wanted the guitar solos back and they wanted the screams back. And so he tried to write more toward that. And so if memory serves me, I think I heard the song Murder by Pride before I heard the rest of the album. And I mentioned in the last episode that I did, where we were comparing the old with the new, that when I heard the song Murder by Pride, I was like, oh, that sounds like Stryper. And in fact, to such an extent that I think had that song been on To Hell with the Devil, it would have fit in just fine. It just really had that sound. And so that got me excited about the album. And so that's, the perspective I came into it with, thinking maybe we're finally going to get some stuff that really sounds like Stryper now. So,
okay, Rex, what were your thoughts upon your first listen?
This has a lot of good memories and nostalgia for me. This is the album, and from here on out, where I really got back into Stryper. Michael Sweet produced this all by himself. So this is like the first album where Michael does all the production. One thing that I do remember, yes,
you are correct that Michael produced it, but it says produced by Michael Sweet and Danny Bernini.
Oh, okay.
I just wanted to clarify, guys,
okay.
And I know it's been a fortnight, but yes, Michael did produce.
Okay.
Danny Bernini has a hand in it.
Okay. So we're on track for, like, the rest of the albums. We got the team in place now for all these future Stryper albums. Another thing that I thought was really cool, I was into iTunes and that, and every week iTunes would release a new song from the album. So you could keep getting a song each week until the album was fully released. It has that raw production sound of Yellow and Black Attack, the first original release, and Soldiers. It's definitely a good step ahead production-wise versus Reborn. So it's got, you know, guitars, and like Mike said, Michael was listening to the fans. It's more of that Stryper sound that we know and recognize. The production isn't quite there, but it's definitely a huge step in the right direction for future Stryper albums. So I listened to that, you know, now when we were doing this episode, and it's surprising that, I like the album, you know, quite a bit, actually.
So I was thinking, Rex, as you were talking about the team being in place. I got to thinking, you know, the Beatles, they had George Martin.
Mm-hmm.
Van Halen, classic Van Halen, with David Lee Roth, had Ted Templeman.
Mm-hmm.
I had another band I was thinking of. I think Kansas, classic Kansas, had Jeff Glixman.
Mm-hmm.
I think Danny Bernini has become Stryper's hand, just like those aforementioned producers and engineers.
Yes.
Danny Bernini's kind of found his place with Stryper as far as the team up. So my thoughts with Murder by Pride, it was great to see Stryper back in 2009 after almost 4 years. I was starting to get a bit worried after Reborn. It's like, where did they go again? Murder by Pride to me was one step closer to metal Stryper. It's kind of 1 foot in, 1 foot out. I'll be very honest, guys. This series, it's kind of like a proverbial second spin for me with revisiting these albums, Reborn and Murder by Pride. Full confession of Murder by Pride for me, I approached this album with trepidation because when I heard the news that my beloved visual timekeeper, Robert Sweet, did not play on this album. Kenny Aronoff played on this album, and I remember Kenny Aronoff he was the main drummer for John Cougar Mellencamp. Kenny played on this album, and he did a wonderful job. He certainly is a top-notch drummer. But, you know, man, Robert Sweet not on a Stryper album. To me, that was big news and not good news.
If you recall, Michael said the reason that is because he just wasn't ready. You know, he wanted him to play on it, but Robert wasn't ready. So
yeah, and I'm not saying anything about any reasons why or why not. I'm just at face value, Robert Sweet didn't play on the album.
Yeah.
So my heart's disappointed because I absolutely love Robert's drumming, and Kenny Aronoff did a brilliant job. It's just not my homeboy Robert Sweet, if you will. So yes, that knowledge put an impediment on my full acceptance of this album when it was released. Just a full confession there. I actually did not care for the cover art. I'm not saying that it's bad necessarily. It's just, I don't know. I just didn't take to it. But that said, guys, what really counts is what's within. There is much to appreciate within this album. To me, this sounds like a hybrid between Reborn and the metal Stryper that we all knew and know now. I did see the band on this tour in 2009, or maybe it was very early 2010. The ironic thing was, whereas Reborn gave us Tracy Ferry, and Tracy played on Reborn and this album, when I saw Stryper in 2009, we'll say, for the Murder by Pride tour, Tracy was gone by that time, and Tim was back because it was also their 25th anniversary. So I was a little confused. Saw Stryper in 2003 with Tim, bought the new album in 2005. Tracy was on board. bought Murder by Pride with Tracy playing on it, and then Tim's back for the tour. Anyway, that's my overall thoughts, guys. Before we get into song-by-song tracks, the clips, anybody want to say anything else in general?
Just about the cover art, and I agree with you. I don't care for it either. Again, it just doesn't strike me as what you'd expect from a Stryper album. It doesn't feel like a metal cover or whatever. But correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't they do like a contest or something for fans to send in cover art concepts, and this was whoever won? I think that's what happened, if I remember right.
Sure. I seem to remember that too, Mike,
Yeah.
now that you mention it. And,
Yeah.
I don't, there's the back.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that it's bad or anything. I'm not trying to diss the artist. It's just,
Oh, no.
we all connect with different types of art. I just never really fully connected with this cover. So,
Yeah, I didn't either. But I just wanted to bring that out, that if I remember right, I do believe it was fan art. So,
yep.
yeah. But
That said, let's take a peek at what's within. We will go to song number 1. That was Eclipse for the Sun. Mike, what'd you think, buddy?
So I've already said that, for me, the song Murder by Pride sounded like classic Stryper. Dealt with the devil, period. This doesn't so much, but it's closer than anything we got on on Reborn. So listening to this, I immediately realized we're at least moving in the right direction. This is sounding closer to metal. It's sounding closer to the way Michael used to sing, and it's not a bad song at all. I was pretty happy with it. In fact, I'll just say up front that the first half of this album for me is pretty good. I was pretty happy with pretty much the whole first half. And so this was just the start of that. We got some good guitar solos back. We got some screams back. It's starting. It's not all the way there yet, but it's starting to sound like Stryper again. So.
Okay. Rex?
Yeah, fairly kind of the same thoughts as Mike. I thought it was a good opening track. It's fast tempo, guitars are there, and whatnot. So, I thought it was a decent song, not a great song, but a good way maybe to open the album up.
Guys, Eclipse for the Sun to me, ironically, it, again, just kind of like the opener for Reborn, Open Your Eyes. To me, it has that frenetic post-punk vibe. It's the same, I just get the same kind of impression or vibe from it, and I like it because I do like some punk rock. The production's different, of course. The drum sound, the mixing, the engineering, the drum sound's different, which was a plus. But anyway, yeah, I liked it. I liked Eclipse for the Sun. I thought it was a good full throttle opener. And I'm like you, Mike. I noticed too, my three-quarters of this album, I feel, just for the actual song content, no matter if they were Stryper-esque or not, but I found myself really having an appreciation for well over half the songs, and it's top-heavy on my appreciation, like you were saying. So, all right, guys. Song number 2 here. Enter the guitar riff.
Yeah.
Mike.
So Song number 2, we're sounding even more like Stryper. And I really, really like this song. It's got more of the Stryper sound. Again, it's got the screams, it's got the solo. And it's a good song. I like the message. It's in many ways, it's not as classic Stryper to me as Murder by Pride, the song, but it's real close.
Yeah.
And maybe even hearkening back a little bit before To Hell with the Devil in its sound. But I really like this song.
Yeah, the riff came back with this one. Rex?
Yeah, that's right off the bat, I'm like, oh yeah, here we go. Stryper that you're wanting. It also has a guitar solo in it too, and as Mike said, the message is good. That Stryper sound is definitely coming back on this song.
So I think I've already kind of shared my sentiments about it. I do want to say this has the coolest metal usage of the word unicorn ever in a heavy metal song. No strength in a unicorn. Hey, it's a great song. I like it. Four Leaf Clover's cool, man. And I like the message like we're talking about. Moving right along to get myself out of hot water. Here we go. Preacher Man, what you think?
Yeah, the first thing I'm going to say about this is there's no way this song could have been bad because Tom Scholz wouldn't have played on it if it was.
True.
So,
True.
it's a fairly faithful cover of Boston's Peace of Mind, and little bit of Stryper variation, kind of putting their own touch on it, but it's fairly faithful. Like I said, Tom Scholz came in and played guitar on it. So it's a cover of an awesome song. So, there's no way it's going to be bad unless, well, I can't say that because if we ever do talk about the tribute albums, we'll go there, but
Yeah.
But yeah, it's great. When I end up picking my top 3, I've been wrestling with this of whether or not to even, put this one in the mix just because it's a cover and Tom was involved and there was just no way it was going to be bad. So I don't know if it's fair to throw that into that consideration, but it's a great song.
Oh yeah. Well, you when we get to the pick threes, you can pull a mulligan if you need to, and
Yeah.
as our friend Kevin Carruthers would say from White Throne, pulling a mulligan. So we can leave room for that. So Rex, what'd you think about the tune?
I mean, yeah, like Mike said, it's Boston, it's classic Boston era, song. I mean, what can you say about it? It's not going to be a bad. So, I know everyone knows that song. So yeah, it's a good version.
And that's the key right there. Did Stryper do a good version? Was it a faithful representation? Did they do it justice? I believe the answer is yes, just like you guys. And, Mike, I think you might have mentioned on our first episode that we had with you, the 4x4, I don't know that Stryper has actually ever done a bad version of a cover song.
No.
I mean, all their cover songs, they have been very faithful to the originals and to do it justice.
Yep.
So kudos for that. So, all right, moving past Peace of Mind.
Listen, birds don't sing anymore.
And that was Together as One by Stryper. No, I'm teasing. That was Alive. All right, Mike, what you think, buddy?
I like this song. You know, it doesn't strike me as a typical Stryper, but there's just a lot of depth of heart in this song. And of course, this album came out the same year that Michael's wife died. And I don't know if this song had anything to do with that. I don't know if Michael's ever talked about the song or to that extent. But it when I first heard it, it immediately made me think about that, you know. And but it's, you know, it's just a song that, you know, whether it really fits on a Stryper album or not, I like it, you know, and just got a lot of depth to it and a lot of meaning. And whether it was written to have anything to do about his wife dying or not, I can't imagine that it didn't probably minister to him to sing it in light of that fact. But just some thoughts, I guess.
Yeah. Rex?
Yeah, I'm just not sure that it's the right place on a Stryper album, but it just, you know, you got all these three fast tempo songs or whatever, and then we get into that. It really like breaks up the flow of the album somewhat for me too. So that's kind of what I'm thinking about it.
You know, that song to me, and, you know, just want to stop and pause real quick. And yes, fond remembrances of Kyle Ray Sweet, Michael's late first wife. And she did a lot for Stryper back in the day with the makeup and things of that nature. So that said, this song, it actually, to me, it kind of sounds like a movie soundtrack. You know, I'm not saying that it's a perfect Stryper song, but it is a very well crafted song. And so I have respect for it for that. That was Alive. And we'll move next to The Plan.
Ten years ago, I know I loved you so.
Mike?
Again, I really like this one. It's kind of one of those, you know, and I talked before about how I kind of felt like this was a little bit of a bridge album between taking Stryper from where they came back in to where they eventually went.
Right.
And this song is a pretty good representation of that. You know, it sounds kind of like classic Stryper, but it's still got a little bit of that modern element to it. But overall, I really like the song, and I think it fits well within what, for me, like I said, especially the first 6 songs of this album to me are just great material that I really enjoy listening to, and this song is part of that. So
Cool. Rex?
Yeah, it's just a good song, you know. I do agree with Mike. It's a little bit of a bridge musically. Also there's definitely some old style Stryper, you know, musical elements there, and some newer things too. So yeah, just a good overall song for me.
Okay. I don't have a lot to say about The Plan, guys. I mean, it's a decent enough song. I don't have an especial affinity for it, but neither am I opposed to it. It's there. It's modern rock. You know, so we'll just keep cruising right along here. That was The Plan. And that was Michael Tift's least favorite song of the album, Murdered by Pride. No.
Yeah.
Well, tell us what you really think, buddy.
Oh, yeah. No, easily the best song on the album, in my opinion. Very much has that classic To Hell with the Devil Stryper sound. Like I said earlier, I think it very much fit right in with that album without a hiccup. And this song single-handedly gave me hope for the future of Stryper, to be great again. You know,
Make Stryper great again.
yeah. And so, yeah, I mean, I couldn't say more positive about the song. It's just like they, everything was working on this one. They hit all the notes. They, you know, obviously I wish the whole album was more like this. But the fact that even this one song was there, made a huge difference for me. And so I love it.
Rex?
Yeah, this is a good title track song, you know, by Stryper. You know, and Michael's voice is in good form on it. Yeah, the whole album could be like this, and I wouldn't have a problem with it.
So far, guys, from my perspective, we're halfway through the album. It's song number 6 of a 12-song album. In my humble opinion, we have 3 songs from that lot of the first 6 that would harken to classic Stryper, which would be number 1, 4-Leaf Clover, number 2 would be Peace of Mind, and number 3 would be this song, Murdered by Pride. It starts out with those dual leads at the front, and it has all the hallmarks of a classic Stryper song. Yeah, good song, Murdered by Pride. Okay, moving on to the next one, entitled Mercy Over Blame.
Love saves a soul. Hate kills a heart. Fear robs a goal.
Mike?
This again for me is probably one of those more bridge type songs. But I suppose I do feel it maybe slips a bit more back into that modern rock type sound. But my biggest issue with this one is that I don't, there's nothing that makes it really jump out at me. No big hook to draw me in. So it's not a bad song, but after, I mean, to come after Murder by Pride, it just, you know, that's why I think for me, you know, the second half of the album starts a little bit of a downslope just because I hit that crescendo, that pinnacle. Yeah. And so this isn't a bad song, but it's definitely not as good as what I was just listening to. So.
I got you. Rex, what do you think about Mercy Over Blame?
I mean, yeah, it's a good song. There's a solo in it. To me, it sounds like Stryper for the most part. So, you know, not spectacular, but not terrible either. Just kind of middle of the road Stryper song for me.
Rex, if you would make a note never to have Michael Tifft on in as a guest for what he said about Mercy Over Blame. Nothing memorable about it.
Okay, I'll do that.
I'm teasing, of course, buddy.
I know.
So I agree with both of y'all. This is a song that harkens. This is a what I would consider a modern rock song, more in the Reborn vein. But I will say, what Mercy Over Blame has for me, that riff to it. Anyway, even though it's a modern rock song with that type of a open, you know, the power chord riffage, to me it still has a hook, that riff. So for that reason, even though it's not Murder by Pride classic-esque Stryper, I still got to give kudos for that great riff. So I dig it for that reason. So that was Mercy Over Blame. Those were my thoughts. And moving right along.
I believe in you and you believe in me. I believe in love and love believes in me. I believe in faith and hope and death.
Preacher Man, do you believe?
Easily the second best song on the album. No, I'm kidding. No. This takes us right back into more, you know, what they were doing on with Reborn or whatever. I think maybe Michael had some leftover solo material that he tossed in here to fill out this album a little bit, because this is really hearkening back to the Reborn or Truth type material, and you know, it's not Stryper in sound. So you know, it's okay for what it is, but it's not Stryper stuff.
Sure. Rex?
But it does have some good harmony background vocals, Mike. And it does, I mean, yes, it would probably fit on a Michael Sweet solo album. But yeah, it probably doesn't fit on this album totally. It does get going, you know, into the choruses and stuff. But it's okay. Yeah, I'm not like thrilled, you know, about it to be on the Stryper album. It probably would have been a better Michael Sweet solo song.
Guys, this song reminds me, once we get into the chorus and he's belting it out and all, this song reminds me of Creed, some of the riffs that are in there and all. Anyway, harkens back more toward the Reborn stuff for me. Is what it is. And we'll move along to the next tune. Mike, what you think?
For me, you could kind of duplicate what I said about the last song. Like I said, I think we've just got probably a run of a few songs here that I feel like were just leftover solo material that is just okay, but not really fitting for what this album was originally trying to be. So.
Rex?
Yeah, this song definitely should have not been on this album. This song should have been on a Michael Sweet solo album. There's just, yeah, it doesn't do anything for me at all.
I agree with you guys, more of a Michael Sweet solo sounding song, but I will say that sometimes you get a song, the chorus in your head, and I distinctly remember this chorus. You know, I just want to run in you. And anyway, I had that going through my head last night as we were prepping for this, you know, for today. So,
well, and it's kind of like I said before, you know, I mean, Michael Sweet solo material, a lot of it is catchy.
right.
You know? So to say that it doesn't necessarily belong on a Stryper album isn't to say it's bad.
Exactly.
Right, yes.
Preacher Man 777.
A little better than the other two for me, but still not really what I'm looking for.
I still haven't found what I'm looking for. Rex, did you find it in this song?
Well, Mike took the words right out of my mouth. Yeah, it's just not what I'm expecting on a Stryper album. And as you said before, you know, not a bad song, just probably does not fit well on a rocking Stryper album that we're looking at.
You know, as I was listening and kind of prepping for some of this, and I'll be honest, Love Is Why is one of those that kind of, you know, it wasn't a standout cut for me. Kind of flew over my head just a little bit, but in listening and prepping, and especially to that intro, I can hear a little bit of 80s Whitesnake-esque radio pop metal, if you will.
And I think that's part of what made me say a little better than the other two.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Right. Still not there, but yeah, there's a little tinge, if you will, of, oh, okay, you know. So that brings us to song number 11.
Oh! Ooh, yeah.
This is an improvement. For me, it's kind of unfortunate that this one wasn't on the front side of the album. I think it would have fit in better. Kind of sitting out there toward the end after all these ones that kind of were, you know. It probably doesn't get the attention it deserves. But after those three songs, this is definitely a step starting back in the right direction.
Rex?
It's a, you know, a rocker. You know, I'm glad that they close a song with, you know, something, you know, rocking. The guitars sound good in it. So yeah, we're back to kind of what we're hoping to get with Stryper here to close out the album.
So with this song, naturally, it has a progression back to, you know, leaning back to older Stryper. But guys, I always felt like this song, it was almost like the band was together at practice and trying to feel a song out. Like, hey, you know, we're developing a song here. It's like somebody's got a chugging riff. It's like, it's almost haphazard in a way. Do you understand what I'm trying to say, Mike?
Mm-hmm.
It's like we're kind of shaping and molding something, but we haven't quite got this song worked out yet. And everything has always felt that way to me, just a little bit haphazard, like it's almost like a song being worked out.
Yeah.
I don't know if that makes sense or not. But anyway, I probably need to go back and really listen to that song again. But that said, I know a little more about this next song. So let's see what we think. Okay, Mike.
So this certainly sounds like Stryper. How could it not? It's a reworking of one of the earliest Stryper songs. You know, now compared, because of where the time period that this song comes from, my tendency then is to kind of compare it to, you know, stuff from Yellow and Black Attack or Soldiers.
Mm-hmm.
And up against that stuff, it's not real great.
Right.
But it definitely sounds like Stryper. It's got that old classic Stryper sound, which, you know, for me is what I'm craving here. So, so it definitely stands out on this album for that reason. Now, of course, I originally heard this song in its ballad form. And so that's the only way I knew it for many years. So, and then I heard, somewhere along the line, I heard a rough demo of this song in its rock version. And then I got this, you know. And so it's it's not bad. It just kind of plays weird in my head because I spent so many years listening to that ballad version that, you know, it's kind of crossing wires in my brain. And so it's, I mean, up against this album and everything else that there is to offer on this album, it's certainly pretty good because, you know, there's not a ton of material on here that's going to compete with it. There is some, but so for this album, I would rate it pretty high. For if I compare it with other songs from its original time, it's so-so. But I certainly like it. You know, it's got that classic Stryper sound. So,
Rex, what do you think, buddy?
Okay, well, you've thrown me for a loop because I don't have this song. Is this a new version of the demo version?
What this is, Rex, this is My Love I'll Always Show, of course.
Mm-hmm.
And it is song number 12. And in 2007, well, let me back up. As we all know, on the 86 re-release of
Right.
Yellow and Black Attack, the revamped acoustic version was on that, and that's what most of us heard the first time.
Correct.
In 2007, on the first pressing of the Rock's Regime demos, is where we heard the demo version of the rock or the metal.
Correct.
Okay. When this came out in 2009, it included, it's not a bonus track, it should be on there, My Love I'll Always Show. It's a studio track done officially for the
Okay,
rock
so
version.
So they actually redid it.
Mm-hmm.
They
Yeah.
recorded it new. Okay. Well,
Yeah.
I'm going to have to get a CD copy of Murder by Pride because it's not available on the download version.
Really?
So, no. Yeah, I didn't know that was on the album. I've never heard that. So
It's just like, what is this?
I was like, what? I was
Yeah.
like, well, that sounds better quality than the Rock's Regime version. So I was like,
yeah.
you know, so I'm gonna have to check that out. I got some Christmas money. I'm gonna have to go get the album somehow.
There you go. I agree with you, Mike. Compared to the old school Stryper stuff, there's a reason why it wasn't maybe found on the Yellow and Black Attack
Yeah.
to make that first impression. But compared to the material on here, it's kind of like a long lost friend, if you will, for those of us who were jonesing for some old school Stryper stuff.
Yeah.
Anyway, that said, guys, let's go around the horn. Highlights of any songs that we thought were good, that stuck out to us, and let's pick 3.
So I've already stated that I basically really enjoyed the first half of this album and listened to those songs quite a bit. The second half, not as much. Although I will say that, you know, My Love I'll Always Show it's worth, you know, if you're putting together a compilation CD or whatever, you know, it's worth throwing on there just because for nostalgic purposes, if nothing else. But so if I'm going to pick my top 3 from this album, obviously Murder by Pride is going to be my number 1. 4-Leaf Clover is going to be my number 2. I would probably go with The Plan as my number 3. And that's just sticking with the stuff that's original to this album. I would obviously want to give some honorable mentions to Peace of Mind and My Love Will Always Show, because they're both covers essentially, although one is a cover of a Stryper song, but and they're both, you know, good in their own way. So I'll give them honorable mentions.
Okay. Rex?
Yeah, my top three songs would be Four Leaf Clover, The Plan, and Everything. And I'm definitely gonna check out My Love Will Always Show. I'm interested.
Rex is like,
I'm like, okay, I got something I gotta do.
he's like, all these years, I never knew this.
Yeah, I'm like, wow.
Let me tell you what's sad, guys. Full disclosure here. And Rex, shoot, what episode was it? We did an episode, and it might have been episode number 2 of Stryper-Drive. We were comparing.
The Yellow and Black Attack versions.
Yes. And I hate to say this, but at the time, these two albums, it'd been a while. It'd been a really long while, okay? So I included, when I compared My Love I'll Always Show, the acoustic version to the rocking version, my mind immediately went to the Rock's Regime demos. I had completely forgotten about it being on this album. This is actually the better version, of course, for the rocking version. But that shows you how, I didn't give these two albums the attention that they deserved at the time. I have actually warmed up to these albums. Where we are at now with Stryper on their musical journey, I can actually go back to these with a little bit of peace of mind, pardon the pun, and say, okay, this is a window. This is a snapshot of a time period. And I can listen to these with more ease now, knowing that Metal Stryper has been back for a good while and all seems right with the world with that regard. So my pick 3, guys, from Murder by Pride. Of course, the title track, Murder by Pride. I did include Peace of Mind in there. Didn't have any problems with including that. And then Mercy Over Blame. Again, I know that harkens back a little to the modern rock sound, or the new metal, if you will, but I really like that riffing rhythm. Honorable mentions for me were Eclipse for the Sun, Four Leaf Clover, and My Love I'll Always Show.
Well, Kent, and if you noticed, I think this kind of speaks too about how much better Murder by Pride is. We've all kind of picked some different songs for our top 3. So
Yeah.
I think when you have people who pick different songs, that kind of tells you maybe the album is, a little bit more better also.
Yeah. I think Danny Bernini, little did we know at the time, I think you compare the sound of Reborn to Murder by Pride, well, there's a reason why Michael Sweet and company have stuck with him all these years. I mean, it's been a decade, right?
Over now. I mean, if you want to go back to this album, we're talking 11 years now. So
guys, just let me just hit the scripture real quick for Murder by Pride. For Murder by Pride, the scripture closeout is James 4:6. God opposes the proud, but shows favor to the humble. And another way of saying that is God opposes the proud, but gives grace to the humble. So that's just what the title Murder by Pride reminded me of. Mike, what do you think, buddy? You as our resident minister, what does that title mean to you, Murder by Pride?
Well, I think, pride really is kind of, if you're going to talk about original sin, pride is kind of the source of sin. Because you can go all the way back to the garden, and the real problem that happened there is that, God said, here's my way. Just don't eat the fruit of the tree of knowledge of good and evil, and you'll be fine. And, Satan comes along and says, did God really say, if he just wants you to not know everything he knows. He doesn't want you to end up being like him, and so the idea gets in the head of Adam and Eve there that, oh, we could be like God. We could have control over our own destiny. We could make our own rules, and then the pride seeps in. Even before that, Lucifer himself, overcome by pride, wanted to sit where God sits, So pride really is the source of our destruction. Pride is really the root of sin. And so, equating murder with pride, I guess, yeah. Pride is our destruction. So.
Well, I've had a lot of those same thoughts that you've mentioned. Yeah. The only area that, when I think about it, okay, and I'm getting technical, but there's murder by pride and there's suicide by pride.
Yeah.
Of course, really it killed, right? Pride killed everything.
Yeah.
I guess you're right, because going to the source, once that happened, everything started to destruct. So anyway, good title, good album title. Makes you think. Stryper's always been good at that. And Rex, Mike, before we close out with this this portion, any thoughts about anything? Stryper?
Just my final thoughts on this album would be that for me, this was a real step back in the right direction. It gave me hope for the future of Stryper, that they would get back to a place that I could really enjoy again, and it let me know that Michael still had it in him to write those great Stryper songs that we were accustomed to in the past. And, and it's interesting now because even, and I don't know how many of his solo albums you guys have, but, even in some of his more recent solo material, he's gotten more metal again. So, he just kind of seemed to go through this evolution, I guess, of his songwriting to where he went into an experimental direction for a while, kind of like how they talk about painters, they go through certain periods. Well, Michael seemed to have went through a period with his songwriting, and now he seems to have come back around to metal again. So it's all good.
Yeah, it's, you just got to look at it for the time frame, and it's kind of the opening for what we know as Stryper today. Overall, it's probably fourth from the bottom for me in ranking of all the albums. There are some albums that are below that, and of course quite a few that are above it, but there are some really good songs on that album. And like, as we said, kind of the first half of the album seems to be more of the Stryper sound that we're looking for in an album.
Yeah, I guess we have to remember, Michael and Robert and Oz, and in this case, Tracy, they are artists. And I know Michael, of course, writes the bulk of the material. We as fans, I guess, we have to be careful to leave our favorite artists room to paint. We can't expect them to paint the same painting every time. That's kind of that's the trick, isn't it?
That's what gave us In God We Trust.
Yeah. Yeah. So I guess we have to be careful as fans too, to let our respective artists that we appreciate, give them room for their art. And hopefully they'll remember, hey, this is how we gleaned, this amount of fans is, I guess, finding that balance, right? I do want to say, because since we are touching on Reborn and Murder by Pride, this is a long shot, but Tracy Ferry, bassist for those two albums for Stryper, if you ever come across this, I just thought his playing was very good on these albums. I feel like this snapshot of Stryper, this window, he's probably often overlooked But you know, I was really hearing some nice bass licks in these songs as I was going back over them. So thank you, Tracy, for contributing. Good stuff, you know, with the playing. Anything else, guys? All right.
No.
To anybody watching, thanks for watching. And we'll see you on the flip side. Take
Bye.
care, everybody.
Bye.